metronome, always got me home. In a metronome, always got me home. Laughing at poverty, enjoying the novelty. Laughing at poverty, loving the novelty. Laughing at poverty, enjoying the novelty. Laughing at poverty, loving the novelty. I'm just a man on a train in a suit with a drum machine. I'm just a man in a suit on a train with a drum machine. Internal drum machine, infernal drum machine. In a metronome, always got me home. Internal drum machine, infernal drum machine. In a metronome, always got me home. I'm just a man on a train in a suit with a drum machine. I'm just a man in a suit on a train with a drum machine. Laughing at poverty, enjoying the novelty. Laughing at poverty, loving the novelty. Laughing at poverty, loving the novelty. Laughing at poverty, enjoying the novelty. Laughing, 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 laughing. I'm just a man on a train in a suit with a drum machine. I'm just a man with a plan and your life in his hands. In a metronome, always gets me home. In a metronome, always got me home. City Racers was formed, I suppose, out of the ashes of the band Juno, who Mark had been in and I'd been in. And I suppose we'd done pretty well in Juno, and we'd been very busy, and we'd played festivals and records and out and so on, but it kind of imploded at the end, sadly. But we decided we wanted to keep going. And I know Mark because I'm married to his sister. I didn't mean to look sinister. Rick Maleface, you know. I held the smile a bit creepily long to it. Sorry. Almost slightly sort of baggy new rave at that point, wasn't it? Yeah. By the end, very sort of fizzing electronics and.
We really embraced new rave.
Yeah, the Go Team. CSS, all that kind of stuff, you know, sort of disco rhythms and kind of very colourful 1980s synths and all that sort of stuff that went with it. But that was it was a natural kind of progression from what we were doing anyway.
I think you wanted to do something simpler with City Racers initially anyway.
Yeah, well, we kind of designed it, didn't we, a bit, in terms of what we wanted the sound to be and the band to be.
Because Juno was obviously a band that had a lot of participants, and that was what was great about it and fun about it. But I think
it gave it its kind of colour and everything, vibrancy, didn't it?
Yeah, it's hard though to kind of get people together to do things and things like that. And I think you wanted something which was simpler to organise.
Yeah.
And more
you could write a song and then we could practice it, or you could write a song and we could practice it, and by the end of the day we'd have a song because all the band members had kind of been there. And then we did some demos which we sent off. And I guess Stephen Street picked up on one of them, and we had to kind of assemble a band at that point because we had to get Matt in to drum. He had never drummed with us. It was just basically a garage band demo. The sound that we went for at the time was very much more, I suppose, really stripped back, trying to get gutsy guitars, quite sing-alongy choruses. I guess you could accuse it of being a bit Britpop or punky or something like that. But it was definitely the idea that it was a bit more song-based perhaps than Juno, because Juno did have, I think, quite catchy songs, but there was also a lot was about the sound and about the visual sort of aspect. I think obviously there was the Fred Perry release of the Stephen Street thing, wasn't there? And that was digital, really, but that wasn't probably choice.
We've tried to experiment with formats over the years, but I think we always come back to vinyl. I think because we're both collectors, we both really like physical product. It's part of what's interesting about the music for us, I guess, is the kind of artwork and everything that kind of goes around it. That's what my memory of growing up listening to music was like physical things.
Looking at the artwork as you're looking at the lyrics as you're listening to the thing,
First time I learned Stephen Street's name would be like on a CD for Blur. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I remember seeing it was produced by him, and he was probably the first producer I knew, like George Martin or something. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that's a really important part of things.
I think also I used to enjoy seeking things out that were difficult to find. There were certain records that you couldn't easily get, and you would have to maybe, in my case, go to Edinburgh, which was the nearest place to find record shops, to go and find things that weren't available just in the shops, and you kind of felt like you tracked something down. I'm guessing that sort of still exists, but you can kind of find most things now within seconds of a Google search, can't you? If you want to hear it or find if it's available to get.
It was incredible, really, wasn't it? I mean, Stephen was a really nice man. Like, I remember him phoning us on the motorway, and we'd just seen a fox explode, remember? Like, a fox ran in front of the car.
That was terrible. I forgot about that. I had to wiping off our windscreen.
And then you get a call and he's like...
In the van.
He phoned us the day before as we were driving down just to make sure we got down to London okay. And that we were terrible. Alright, and that we had somewhere to stay and all that kind of stuff, which is kind of a bit about... It's not what you'd imagine your average super producer to do you know what I mean? Like,
no, he was just a class act, wasn't he? Really
nice guy.
Went for a pint with him afterwards and stuff, and sat down, and it was just all very, very nice, and made you comfortable.
And his kind of methods around things are really interesting as well, because he's just very kind of
astonishingly methodical.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and it shows in his production because he's.
I mean, you could watch him listening to the same loop again and again and again, and making tiniest tweaks, and he obviously was hearing things that we weren't. I remember standing there going, I can't work out what he's doing, but it seems to be working. I mean,
for me as well, like Stephen Street's a bassist, and I could barely play bass at that point. It was a bit of a blaggy situation at the start, wasn't it? We'll teach Marr a bit of bass.
Matt will come in and do some drums, even though he's a guitarist.
It was nerve-wracking. And me and Matt at the time were like, we'll just leave you to do the pickups on your own, Mark. And I'm sitting there with Stephen Street going, I've been playing bass for about 3 months or something.
Yeah,
but he was incredibly polite.
Very nurturing.
Like, encouraging and really, really nice about it. Just absolute class act all around, Stephen.
You say you're haughty, you say you're proud. I feel you're near me, but that's not allowed. That's okay, we stand out in the crowd. Kneeling in the city and we're shouting so loud. They say you're naughty, they say you're cruel. That's okay, they say I'm too. They say no entry at shut tide. We have the keys to the city at night. 21 seasides. See the city at night. Mind the gutter, the line bright lights. I like to see all you've got for. You say you love me, I'm not the green. Say you hate me, you know what I mean. You say you want me, that sounds obscene. You say you fear me, well, that's not my scene. They say you kill me, well, you probably will. They say you lead me, well, lead me right in. They say together we shouldn't be allowed. That's okay, we're the head in the clouds. 21 seasides. See the city at night. Mind the gutter, the line bright lights. I like to see all you've got for sure. want to see sights. See the city at night. Mind the gutter, the light and bright lights. I like to see, oh, you've got 4. 21, 21, see sights. 21, 21, see sights. 21, 21, see sights. 21, 21, see sights. I like to see, oh, you've got 4.
So we recorded that at Green Door Studios with our friend, and again, we didn't know him before we started that, but I suppose it's a long, long time ago now when we did that, wasn't it? Sam Smith from Green Door, and he's an absolutely fantastic character, and glad to say friend now, but in terms of his producing, it's a very interesting place, Green Door, because it's mainly analog equipment, so they record you reel to reel, which is really good because it informs your songwriting and informs how you practice it, doesn't it, in terms of what you leave in, what you leave out. Because if you know you only have a certain number of tracks to get your point across, you won't do endless guitar overdubs. You'll basically say, right, at that point it stops doing that and it does that bit and then it does that bit. Or, we need 2 vocals here, so we'll have to compromise on something. And it's very good because it means that you have to be really disciplined when you go in. You need to know you can play it. So you can get the basic rhythm track down live, and then you need to know that you've considered your arrangement enough to use the other spaces. He does have digital options as well, but generally, if we can do that, then that's the ones that give us the most, kind of punchy results.
I think the first album, whenever Sam went to open up Pro Tools, we were always really disappointed because that meant we'd failed in order to make decisions on things.
Yeah.
And the second album, we embraced Pro Tools.
We did.
It was a more expansive sounding album, and that was part of what we wanted to do.
Yeah, the new one is again back to more of a Juno sound, actually, if we're being honest, more of a kind of a disco, electro kind of thing. So therefore, it, whilst the basis of most of the tracks were probably recorded, in the same analog way, we did then also put the whistles and bells on and so on, so that it could have that kind of expansive quality. It's got quite a lot of different instruments on it. The first one is really bass guitar, drums, shouting.
What we do best.
Yeah. Yeah. So I suppose the original kind of idea for it is, so it's called Citalodisco, and I think the original kind of brief we gave ourselves when we actually, like a lot of things we do, it was quite designed insofar as we thought that we wanted to pull together an album that was very short, sharp and poppy, but in that kind of intelligent pop way that, I think was very well done actually in the early 80s by bands like Blondie and Parallel Lines. And we were talking about earlier, Adamant is another example, or XTC or Talking Heads, these kind of bands that would put together an album that made sense from start to finish. And I guess, it was both catchy and also had something lyrically interesting to say as well. So we kind of gave ourselves that brief. We also started playing around with an old drum machine that we had, the 1980s drum machine, which is probably on about half the tracks as well. It's all about the size of a pencil case. It actually looks like a pencil case. And that kind of informed a lot of it, So the album, I think, aside from that, we realised there were various songs that we'd written that we probably couldn't sing as well as we would like, because the songs were perhaps above our ability. So Mark came up with the idea of getting Grace in, didn't you?
Got an amazing singer called Grace Barrett in to kind of work with us, and she's got an incredible voice. She's worked with lots of really kind of interesting bands over the years. I think it was what Fever Brother.
Mm-hmm. We met her when we were doing that, Little Boots
and things like that. She'd sung on a lot of these records as a kind of backing vocalist. We actually played with Brother
twice
years ago, actually, when they were kind of, I guess, being hyped up in the next kind of big thing. And we remembered seeing Grace singing
because she had a great kind of presence, on the stage as well.
A stage presence as well, and kind of tracked her down through a bit of friendly Facebook stalking. And she agreed to come up from London to kind of work with us, and it was brilliant. I think it kind of makes.
She came down 2 goes, didn't she?
Yeah.
We've got a gig on, I think it's the 9th of September at the CCA, haven't we? We're a support act for it, but we're kind of warming into the idea, and we might contact Grace and see if we can get her along, or alternatively put on our own show to do the album kind of start to finish, which would be good. It's a weird one because obviously with lockdown there hasn't been any gigs, and they've been loads of album releases where nobody has played us, an album release show. So it's good to be doing this today because it ties in very well, and also means that we can play live again to some extent. I've heard about this podcast. Apparently, it's very good. Yeah, it feels good. Yes, it's amazing. That bass line was written in the farm back in Fife. It's funny that it's really good to hear it.
Try to write Shaft, is that right?
Me and Jamie and Juno were trying to rewrite Shaft, and as whenever you try to do something else, somebody else's thing, it always comes out as your own, doesn't it? So it's fantastic, and it's incredible that it's got a new life. I mean, that's an album track, an unreleased album, but it was always going to be, kind of tucked away on the record. So it's good.
The videos we've done for the new album are very much the product of an artist called Ian McCall, and Ian's just got this kind of he's got an incredible visual sense. His work's really I guess it's very unique looking, and it looks very much, you can kind of tell Ian's hand, if that makes sense, and he's turning into he is a really great animator as well, so it's been difficult to shoot videos during lockdown because of the obvious barriers that are in the way of doing things like that. So
we shot one prior to it, haven't we?
We shot one of the videos prior to lockdown, which we appear in. But also, we and James are getting of an age now that we're not as keen to be on music videos anymore. So we've done 2 animations. Ian's made 2 animations that will also go out. One's already been released, another one will come out later in the year. In that case, it was really because I saw Ian's work actually at the degree show at the art school. I thought it was great, and I just contacted him after it and asked if he would make videos with us. And
again, I'd seen him in a band that Sam Smith had also produced at Green Door. And I saw that, a band called Lilo, and Sam was playing with them in his brilliant current incarnation.
Yeah,
Isola.
Yeah. Prior to that, I've shot videos myself, and normally it's just trying to push things to as much as you can kind of do in a Glasgow flat, to be honest with you, with the high ceilings. They really lend themselves to shooting videos quite well. So if you actually look at some of the videos I've shot over the years, I always laugh because you can kind of almost
see the corner,
the edge of the kitchen coming into shot or something like that.
The 21C Sights one was amazing because that was in the spare room in the flat. We built a room within the room.
Oh yeah, we built a set.
And then you got your pal Ian to kind of pretend to be a prisoner and smash it up, which was great, great fun. Although I had to go out of the house because you were sort of winding him into, I don't know, you're doing your method acting.
Everybody needs a friend who, when you say to him, I'd like to make a video about a guy who's been locked in a sort of futuristic prison cell, and he's been forced to listen to my song on loop, and he goes, I'll be that guy.
I mean, he really hurt him. So he was punching the walls and everything. It was knuckles bleeding, and and I came back. I'd sort of gone around the corner and had a pint and read the paper or something, and come back and was, oh my god, what's going on here? You two were very intense.
Talking on the stairwell where we met upon a stairwell. We knew it had gone well when we fell around with laughter. Oh, invite me tonight. Walking down the stairwell, this habit-forming stairwell. We thought we had a chance when I helped you with your bags. Oh, invite me tonight. Hey! Well, there must be some mistake. I see you with another, I hear you with another, but there can't be no other true. You hurt me tonight. I need to find an exit. I used to feel so special. I need to find an exit where you don't audition fools. You tricked me alright. In a room she opened me up to new ideas. Behind a city view she showed me the new. With the best songs on. Thank you then gone. Well, I hate this stupid stairwell, this multi-story stairwell. Start out in this farewell, it hasn't ended well.
Yeah, it's difficult. So I kind of have two views about this. One is that I think it's very difficult to sound truly original these days because everything's been sort of, it's the popular self theory, isn't it? Everything's been done and regurgitated out at least 2 or 3 times over. However, I do think what you can always get is energy. And I think the best thing is, you know, if people come out with a lot of energy from this, hopefully. You might also, I suppose, you might go down the road of music that I'm probably less of a fan of. People sort of sitting in the houses doing very contemplative, you know, kind of this is me on my computer type music. You might get that, you know, home gigs and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we deliberately avoided doing that simply because we kind of thought what we do is very much about, you know, the feel, the energy, not necessarily the technical perfection or, you know, any of that kind of stuff. I do actually have quite a strong view on this. I think there's definitely something to be said for people having the tools of production, right? You know, people can produce their own stuff at home and make their own music and all the rest of it. But I think if we're being really honest, it also has led to quite a lot of dross. And I think if we're telling the truth, they're going through the studio process, and sadly, for all of its faults, the record industry did have some things in A&R Scouts insofar as there was a bit of quality control. And I think maybe there's been some gains and some losses, maybe. Because I think it's harder for genuinely interesting, good, you know, younger bands now to cut through in many ways because they've got to, you know, be, as you call it the other day, cheating the algorithm or finding out how it works in a social media sense rather than necessarily just because it's very good quality, because there's so much stuff there. It's difficult to actually get to the quality.
On board of platforms.
Really very bored of platforms.
Cheating algorithm. That's brilliant.
I think that
Pleasing the algorithm.
I genuinely think that should be the next record's title, Mark.
Well,
it's such a great phrase you come up with. Honestly,
I mean, there's quite a lot of depressing chat that you hear a lot of young musicians talking about how you get your track heard on TikTok is by like having a more famous artist like
playing in the background or something
in the background, so that TikTok's algorithm goes, hey, that's Beyonce.
I'll send this to all the Beyonce fans, things like that. Do you know, and for me, the thought of sitting down with a guitar to write a song and thinking, how can I get this, you know, it seems like anti-art almost, you know. I don't know, maybe that's just the view of somebody that's been doing this for a long time, but I think for me it's just, when you sit down to write a song, you get together with your pals to write a song, it should be about, you know, the feel and trying to make it as good as it can be.
I'm sure that still exists.
I'm sure it does. Of course it does. You know, absolutely. I think it would be naive to think that it doesn't, but these other considerations, I think, is quite depressing.
We kind of commissioned an artist called Bart Manders to do the first album. He's a graphic designer, and I think a lot of the kind of, I guess, the reference points we gave him would be the kind of sort of Factory Records kind of kind of quality to them. We kind of always look for something. We aim for something. We always try to work with people who are hopefully can make something we feel has a kind of last the sort of test of time type thing. And the new album we've worked with Gregor Wright, who's this incredible,
very respected artist, basically.
artist.
Yeah, he's an excellent artist.
It's interesting as well. I was thinking the kind of colour purple always seems to recur in all of our work.
Yeah.
And it's not something we've ever chosen, but even in our videos, Ian McCall chose purple, Mark chose purple, and I think Gregor's used it in new artwork as well, so it's kind of stuck with us.
It's like the band The Creation asked to describe their sound, they said red with purple flashes. I think obviously the purple must come through in some way, shape or form, if you believe in that sort of synthesia type, you know.
Synesthesia.
Yeah, that's the one. I'll let you say that. Yeah. No, I mean, it's very important, and the singles that were on the first record, the artwork was done by Danny, who sung on as guest vocalist on them as well, and he's an artist.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And then even we had Ian actually do some of the single artwork for the recent that you'll probably see on Spotify and things like the digital releases, and they're all kind of connected into the videos and things like that.
It is the idea that it should be a catalogue and a kind of a body, and everything would look good together.
Lately, I can't seem to take the strain.